everybody. Welcome back to the second episode of Tubi Trash, the show where we watch terrible movies we find on Tubi. My name is John Carl Barth, founder of Neurokino Productions, and this is...
Hi, I'm Darren Logue, and I'm helping out with this episode because it is definitely fun to dive into the dumpster to see what Tubi Trash we can pull out.
Also, check out his channel, because he has one.
By the way, you said welcome back to the second episode, implying
Whatever.
that the second episode's in multiple parts.
Thank God. No, that is not the case at all. So, we watched Blind Waters.
The shark already came back once. It's just been circling back and forth.
We're sitting ducks on this boat.
Which is a shark movie by the Asylum.
I'm surprised we didn't go blind watching it.
First off, I'd like to apologize, A, for making you watch this, but B, for my just kind of... I'm pretty low energy today. I did not sleep particularly well last night. And this movie didn't help. Like, I'm gonna say right off the bat, objectively, this is probably a worse movie than Rogue Hostage. Like, this is... Whereas Rogue Hostage, I considered to kind of just be mediocre. There was a lot more about this movie that was actively cringe, which, for our purposes, for the purposes of this show, might have, in a different movie, worked in our favor, because we're kind of looking for stuff that's hilariously bad. However, it still wasn't bad enough to be all that notable, I think.
It's getting there.
Like, this is a less mediocre movie than... almost said Rogue One. Rogue Hostage. Rogue One was pretty boring, too. So yeah, this is a probably worse movie than Rogue Hostage, but somehow I was more bored during this, at least toward the end. To be fair, that might not entirely be the movie's fault, because...
The fault of the production company.
No, not even. I mean, like, it might have to do with, like, the circumstances we watched it in, just as much as the movie itself. Because, like, there are only two of us this time, so it's not, like, a gathering of friends all coming together to riff this bad movie, which, that in itself, I think, kind of takes away from the enjoyment a little. Hi, Trent and Miles, if you're watching this.
Please come back.
And also, again, the fact that I'm... exhausted and low energy because of a lack of sleep, and I'm just kind of generally in a crappy mood. So I said near the beginning of this that so far this is actually kind of entertaining. Like, it isn't good, but more than I can say for Rogue Hostage, it is at least a little bit entertaining. It is at least holding my attention. That didn't last. This movie lost me pretty quickly.
Yeah, because in movies like Jaws, it's at least backed up with the interesting human characters in the scenes without the shark. This does not really have that interesting of human characters.
Yeah, so we should probably try and summarize the plot, although aside from one admittedly kind of insane element, the plot's pretty unremarkable. So there's this couple... Their names are Weston and Valentina, which, like, I shouldn't make fun of people's names, but A, they're fictional, and B, like, Weston and Valentina.
Those are names that you would give to fictional characters.
I mean, there probably are people with those names out there. In fact, like, I think, because at one point I think they say Valentina's last name is Armas, which is, like, Hispanic, so probably just, like... That's just a common name in, like, Latin America and in Spain.
Is the character Hispanic?
I mean, I figured she was supposed to be, given her name.
I don't know if the actress is Hispanic, but, I mean, she didn't look Hispanic to me.
I mean, sure, but, like, there are, you know, very light-skinned Hispanic people without accents. That happens.
Yeah, maybe I'll do my research later.
Anyway, so this couple, neither of them are especially interesting or have much in the way of personality, but they're vacationing in this seaside resort thing where you can rent boats and go scuba diving. And
to make a long story short, they went to the beach.
well, more than that, they like specifically went out on the water to go scuba diving. But before that, so remember that kind of insane plot element that I mentioned earlier? So the first thing we see is this guy. So what he does first, it's not the first thing we see, but chronologically what he does first is he kills the owner of this boat, like just straight up murders him, slits his throat, and hides his body in the bathroom.
Poorly,
yeah. We never find out why he does this, nor why he did such a bad job hiding the body or anything like that. He just straight up murders a guy and steals his boat for no reason whatsoever. And he pretends it's his boat and goes out on the water with this family. Again, dead body in the bathroom. For some reason, he doesn't seem to consider that a problem, that this family might potentially discover it.
Yeah, I mean, what if one of the family members had to go use the bathroom?
Yeah, one would really think that. But anyway, the family gets eaten by the shark, and the killer guy is stuck on the island. Oh, but before that, he also tries to steal Valentina's purse. That's another thing.
Yeah, that's right.
We could not figure this character out to save our lives, because he's, again, kills a guy for no reason. Like, I get that he was trying to steal the boat, but A, why? We never even really find out that. All we know is that he kills this guy, steals his boat, and drives to an island and boats over, I guess you would say. I don't know what the verb for that is. Boats over to an island and gets stranded, and the family gets eaten by sharks. Like, we don't know what his motives are, why he did any of that.
I think the movie is just implying that he's a psychopath with no motives.
I guess, but
I cannot speak today.
Because like characters like that can work,
just not.
But
this
you
one.
need to. Well, this one doesn't, because like, no, they don't tell us he's a psychopath. Like, I'm not saying they need to like tell us in like a clunky exposition kind of way, but like, give us some indication. Like,
yeah, I mean, in other stories, they at least give the killer a backstory and explain why he's doing stuff like this.
Yeah, so I recently watched a movie called The Dirties, and one of its two main characters is kind of a similar sort of psycho character who does crazy, outrageous, and often terrible things for the sake of it. But they establish that that's like very much his personality. Like, you get the sense that he is the kind of person who just does things like that for the sake of doing things like that. Like, we get to know him as a character very much before he does any. I won't spoil it, because trust me, it's a doozy. But we get to know him before he does anything really, really outrageous. But once he does, it makes sense. Oh, you know what, though? Okay.
What?
We didn't mention the very, very opening scene, which admittedly doesn't have that much of a bearing on the plot. But
that scene.
But I think it is still worth noting, just because it is actually... It's one thing I can compliment the movie on. This opening scene is actually kind of clever. So, it starts out basically the same way you would expect a shark movie to start out. You know, you have your 20-somethings partying, and then a couple of them jump into the water, and then you get the POV shot of the shark going toward them.
Yeah, it reminds me of another movie that I'd rather be watching instead of this one.
So you think it's just going to be Jaws, where the shark gets them and we cut to opening credits or whatever. But what actually happens is the shark is heading toward them, and then that shark gets eaten by a bigger shark. Now, the effects look terrible, don't get me wrong, but that is actually kind of clever.
Yeah, I mean, we see that the shark is a cannibal, but that never comes up in the movie ever again.
Well, no, I don't think the point is supposed to be that it was a cannibal, because it's not. They're different species.
Yeah, and besides, I do know some stories that are about cannibals, and those are entertaining ones.
But I think what they were trying to do is, like, you know, imply that this isn't your daddy's shark movie. This is, this is even more intense than anything you've ever seen before, except it's really not.
They don't go that route.
It's really not that much more intense than anything you've seen before, A. And B, the scene really didn't add... Like, you could take out that opening scene altogether and lose nothing.
I think I forgot about it until you just brought it up now.
Yeah, like, legit... I remember, because when we were watching the movie, we saw that scene, and at first, I was like, okay, that's kind of clever. I'll commend the movie for that. And now that we're actually sitting here talking about it after the fact, literally, like, I had to, like, remind myself of it. Because, like, I talked about, the opening of the movie and the main characters and everything, and I eventually had to remind myself, like, oh, wait, the opening scene.
That's right, it exists.
And again, like, none of those characters ever appear in the movie again. And, yeah, you could literally cut it out, and the movie would still be perfectly comprehensible. Well, comprehensible, as much as a movie like this can be.
That doesn't even need to be part of the movie. That can just be an internet short upload to YouTube.
Yeah. So our main couple, they go scuba diving.
He was planning to propose to her.
He was planning to propose underwater, which, like, the entire time before that was about to happen, all we could talk about was how bad an idea that seemed like because of how easy to lose.
Yes. Just take your girlfriend to a fancy restaurant to propose to her if you want to.
Like, because he had the box with the ring in a little waterproof casing thing, and I'm thinking, like, okay, if that would be so ridiculously easy to lose, which, spoilers, ends up happening, first of all, and second of all, even if he had succeeded, like, neither of them can talk, because they have, like, the little masks on, so, like, what's he gonna do? Like, she can't even say yes,
Well, I mean, maybe he's gonna, like, hold out the ring underwater and to basically show that he's proposing, and maybe she can nod her head yes.
I guess I don't know.
Why are we bothering to come up with explanations for this?
Fair enough. So they get attacked by the shark, kind of, but not really. Like, basically, they swim away from the shark toward their boat, make it onto the boat, and the shark kind of just changes its mind and goes away. And they get engaged, even though he lost the ring. They tie a twist tie around her finger. It's actually kind of a cute moment.
Well, now I know what to do if I ever propose to someone and can't afford a wedding ring for them.
And then the shark comes back. I guess it changed its mind again. And again, doesn't, like, finish them off or anything. It capsizes the boat, and then again just kind of fucks off. And is this the part where Weston's leg gets injured, or is that later?
That's later. I think this is a part where Valentina's head gets hit and
right. Oh, okay. So that's actually a very important thing to mention.
Because you know how it's called Blind Waters?
Yeah. So the movie's called Blind Waters. So initially, throughout much of the beginning of it, again, aside from the really weird thief murderer character who exists for seemingly no reason, aside from that one character, like, this kind of basically just seems like it's a Jaws clone with no real gimmick or anything like that. Like, just kind of a generic shark movie. Which it basically is, but it almost kind of plays at having a little bit of a gimmick, but it half-asses even that. Because what happens is, during the shark attack that capsizes the boat, Valentina gets hit on her head, like, really hard. And you would expect from the title of the movie, Blind Waters, that she would go blind.
Like completely blind.
But no, she just, like, becomes nearsighted. Like, they talk about her as if she's blind, kind of, but also they establish that she can see a little bit. And also, whenever they cut to her, like, point of view, it's just out of focus. Like, it literally just looks like my vision when I have my glasses off.
I mean, there are stories where people go blind after getting hit on the head, but if there are any where people go nearsight after getting hit on the head, could you let us know in the comments?
Yeah, that's, as far as I know, that's not a thing, which I guess it might be, I don't know, but also, like, it's strangely, like, anticlimactic, because it happens, like, pretty late into the movie, to the point where I didn't put two and two together where that was supposed to be the movie's gimmick until, like, the second act.
Yeah,
like,
and aside from some small difficulties, she's able to manage just fine.
Yeah, she's like she can function just fine when the plot needs her to. Like, admittedly, there are some times when that does actually add a little bit of tension. Like, she has to do something that somebody who could see properly could do just fine, but she has to do it, like, while getting away from the shark. Also, she can't really see it.
Yeah,
so
it's not as often as you think.
But yeah, there are also times when the movie just kind of forgets it. So, like, the gimmick that this movie supposedly has that separates it from your typical shark movie kind of isn't really there. Like, it only half is. So, I think that's when the shark attacks one more time. Because, again, the shark is very selective with its attacks, I guess. It just kind of goes away and then comes back and affects the plot in another way that it needs to be affected, and then goes away after that. So he injures the boyfriend's leg.
I have to stop the bleeding. Stay awake.
Oh no, he spilled chocolate syrup with red food dye on his leg. And eventually they wash ashore on the same island that killer purse thief guy is on. Again, we had almost completely forgotten about him. Like, he hadn't been in the movie at all since the beginning, and now here he is again.
Yeah, and we're like, oh yeah, this guy exists.
Yeah. So he makes up some fake story about they were out on a boat together, and then his whole family got eaten by this shark, and he, got stranded on this island by himself. So, sorry guys, I am so tired. I'm struggling to remember the plot of this movie.
Well, I think that's the point where after they talk with him for a bit, she ends up pulling her boyfriend aside and saying, I don't completely trust this person. Something about his story is fishy.
Weston, can I talk to you?
I think we should break up. Yeah, well, it's weird because, like, yes, there are parts of his story that aren't entirely plausible, but she points that out, and then she makes sure to say, I don't necessarily think he's lying. There's just something about him I don't trust.
Maybe he's not lying, but there's just something about him that I don't trust.
Racist. Which, like, why couldn't you just have it be, like, parts of his story don't add up? Like, why did it have to be so vague? Like, yeah, we, the audience, know he's a scumbag, but, like, why should, like, other than his story seeming fishy, like, there's really no reason why she shouldn't. I don't know. It's all very confusing and all very contrived.
It's best not to think too much about it.
So they come up with a convoluted scheme to get back out on the water in killer guy's boat, and boyfriend gets killed by the shark, but not before attempting. This was the only so bad it's good moment in the entire movie. There was a part where the boyfriend legit, like, tries to, like, wrestle the shark. And the crazy thing is, it actually works temporarily.
Yeah, it seems like he won, but then the shark comes back for more.
Yeah, it's like through some very, very confusing editing. I don't even know how physically this would have happened.
The editing is wacko at points.
Yeah, so in a very confusingly edited scene, he, like, wrestles the shark, and the shark just, I guess, goes away for a second. I don't know how that works, but okay.
You guys know how the editing in Jaws was a huge reason why the movie was as good as it was. Well, the editing in this movie is a huge reason why this is as bad as it is.
So they celebrate for like a couple seconds, like, yeah, we fought him off. And then a couple seconds later, the shark just comes back and eats him. So she discovers the body and discovers that he's a psycho killer. And for a quick second, the shark is, again, guess he's had his fill for the moment. And it becomes like a completely different kind of thriller for a second. Like, it turns into like a
slasher film.
Almost, but not even like a psychological thriller. Like,
That's probably a more appropriate way of describing it.
Like one where like the protagonist has to fight off a crazy guy, like Misery. Do you know the movie Misery?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically
I
like
am in misery.
not that. I mean the movie Misery.
But yeah, I have seen the movie Misery. It definitely makes me still feel a little scared at times.
Yeah. So it feels like the climax to that kind of thriller. Like temporarily, it just turns into a different type of movie.
Yeah, and we see her struggling to get the upper hand on him.
Yeah. It's very weird, and again, it's like temporarily the villain is no longer the shark, but instead this guy. And then she gets rid of the guy, but...
Yeah, and also the shark breaks through the floor of the boat and eats him.
Yeah, and in that moment it remembers it's a shark movie, except... And, like, she has to finish off the shark, but in the most anticlimactic way possible. Like, she just takes some pipe and stabs him. And that's it.
Like, they could have done that the whole time, but now it apparently works.
Like, I was pointing out, in Jaws, like, the way they beat the shark is very memorable, like, and very cool.
Yeah, and it took a lot.
Yeah, it's an interesting, elaborate plan.
Yeah, and like, good amount of... there's a good amount of struggle to kill the shark in the scene where... And when they finally do, it's that the shark has the tank in its mouth, and then we get to see the guy try to aim it right at the tank and blow the shark up.
Yeah, it's like a really cathartic moment. Meanwhile, this is just like stabby, 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 and then we're done. That's it. I mean, it's not the end of the movie. Like, there's a little bit of a denouement afterwards.
Yeah,
but
she still has to get rescued.
Yeah, so she gets rescued by the Coast Guard, and this... Okay, I lied. There is one other really bizarre element to this movie.
Here we go.
So, twice near the beginning of the movie, I noticed that for some reason we see the Virgin Mary. I don't know why. Like, at one point, it's a poster on the wall in their hotel room, and at another point, there's a statue at the bottom of the ocean.
And keep in mind, this isn't a film from the Asylum's Christian division.
And at the end, when she's in the Coast Guard's like plane that they're rescuing her in, you know, we see her blurry vision, and she looks up and sees a picture of the Virgin Mary, and her sight comes back.
Well, her sight comes back after she then looks at the recovered wedding ring.
But point is, were they trying to like put a religious undertone in this movie? Like, is this like a biblical allegory or something? Like, is this like Narnia? Like, because that would be really... There was nothing overtly religious I noticed aside from that. Like, I think it genuinely legit, like, seemed like they were trying to imply that was like a divine miracle, which like would be really weird for this movie, because I don't know, was one of the writers Christian and they just decided to or Catholic and they decided to just like slip that in there or something, because like it was odd and it felt really, really out of place.
Yeah, maybe they thought that Christian audiences would be driven away from a movie where people fight sharks in their swimsuits.
I don't know, man. If you can tell, if you can't already tell, this movie kind of drained me a little bit, and I was already feeling a little bit drained. I think, so I know last time when we did our scores, I remember last time we just kind of gave like basic like numerical scores out of 10. However, it occurred to me while we were watching the movie, given the nature of this show, I was wondering if maybe we could borrow a bit of a concept from a YouTuber who goes by the Bad Movie Bible, who you should check out because he's great. where he rates movies on 2 different scales. One based on how actually objectively good or bad the movie is, and another based on so bad it's good entertainment value. Because really, that latter thing is kind of what we're after on this show. That said, I would say that as far as being an actual good movie is concerned, this gets probably a 3. If I'm maybe a 4 if I want to be nice, but more likely a 3. And in terms of so bad it's good entertainment, like 5, maybe a 6 if I want to be really, really, really nice. But
I think I give it a 5 on that.
Okay, what about the other? I mean, I doubt your scores are very high, but what about on
the other one? I give a 4.
Okay, yeah. So that's, I really don't have anything else to say. I know we didn't do much other than kind of just summarize the plot, but there's not much to say about this movie. Do you have any further thoughts?
Yeah, what streaming service is Jaws on right now?
Yeah, for real. Okay, I guess that's it. Again, apologies for a somewhat lackluster episode, but at least this one had some notable moments that were kind of fun to laugh at, unlike the last one.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Hopefully that means we're trending in the right direction. Hopefully that means we will get some more entertainingly bad movies going on down the line.
Yeah, keep in mind it's only the 2nd episode, and Maz, Trent, please come back. We need you guys.
So that's gonna do it. Thank you all for watching. Until then, I should probably think of an ending catchphrase for this. I really don't have one. Keep on Tubi Trashin'. I don't know. I'm not using that. That's terrible. Bye.